Welcome to Binge Breakthrough, the podcast designed to help you finally break through the barriers that keep you stuck feeling out of control around food. I'm Master Certified Coach Jane Pilger, and I want you to know that no matter how long you've been struggling or what you've tried, food freedom is possible, and I'm here to show you how. After years of therapy, eating disorders treatment, restrictive diets, and reading all the books, I was still stuck in the on-again, off-again cycle of restricting and binging until I was able to see it all from a new perspective that changed everything. Each week, I will share the strategies, tools, and mindset that allowed me to overcome my decades-long battle with binge eating. Your journey to body trust starts now. Let's dive in. Hello, trusted listener. Welcome to Binge Breakthrough. I consider you a trusted listener because I trust that you are listening to this podcast for a reason. I trust that you are going to hear something today that is insightful and impactful on your own journey with food. It's hard to believe it has been 1 year of podcasting, of coming to you every Wednesday. And I wanted to record this episode to review and to really look back and reflect on what I've learned and just reflect on this last year. I personally find it so powerful to recognize your progress in any area of life. And so I thought it would be fun to do an episode where I reflect on what I've learned through 1 year of podcasting. Now, the very first episode of this podcast coincided with the anniversary of a significant bike crash that I had. And that bike crash had taken place 3 years prior to the first episode airing of this podcast. And that was the day before Thanksgiving. And this accident took place in southern Arizona. And so it felt like a significant milestone, one of those dates that I will never forget. And when I was trying to decide, when do I want to start the podcast, I found it to be just a great time to release the podcast in that time, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which at the time was I think last year it was the last Wednesday of November, which is when this episode is coming out, the last Wednesday in November. So we really are technically more than a little over a year, but it was such a significant milestone that I thought it would be such a great way to start the podcast, knowing I will always know this podcast aired the Wednesday, very first aired the day before Thanksgiving, 3 years after my bike crash. And since then, since that very first episode, I have recorded 55 episodes that have been downloaded over 47,000 times as of today, the day that I'm recording this. So what have I learned about podcasting in the last year? And as I was putting this together, I realized I was naming the 5 C's as I was looking at what have I learned, started documenting, outlining what have I learned. And I realized that I was naming the 5 C's that I talk about in my Cultivate group coaching program. The very first day, one of the very first things we talk about is I encourage any member to bring into the group the 5 C's. And these are the 5 C's that I have also brought to 1 year of podcasting. I want to talk to you about these 5 C's because these 5 C's, whether you are coming into a group program, whether you are starting a podcast, whatever you are doing in your life that is important to you, these 5 C's you can bring into your own life. So I want to share this with you and I want to reflect on my own journey, but I also want you to be able to bring this in for yourself. How do I apply? How do I take what I am hearing today, bring this into my own world, into my own life? So as you hear about these 5 C's, I want you to think about your own journey with the 5 C's. Where is an area in your life that you are really wanting to focus on? And think about these 5 C's for yourself. Am I bringing this? Is there one of these 5 C's that maybe I could just use a little shoring up? There is no black and white. This is not all or nothing. We do not do this to judge, but we do this to really reflect, to see. So here are the 5 C's. C, number 1, commitment. Number 2, consistency. Number 3, courage. Number 4, curiosity. And number 5 is celebration. So when I reflect on these 5 C's, these are exactly what I have brought into this podcast journey. So the first C is commitment. And when I started this podcast, I was committed to publishing a new episode each week. This meant I had to get clever sometimes. I had to plan ahead to make sure that I had episodes ready in advance if I was going to be traveling. There was never an option to not do it one week if I just didn't feel like it. I was committed to this podcast, to releasing a new episode every Wednesday. And that's exactly what I have done. The second C is consistency. This commitment that I had to release an episode every week created the consistency. Some weeks it has felt easy to get the episode together and recorded, and other weeks has felt more challenging. It has taken more effort. But this commitment allowed me to create the consistency of a new episode every week. The third C is courage. We all know that nothing worthwhile is ever easy. Everything that is worthwhile is not easy. I'm not sure I said that right the first time. But if it's worthwhile, it is likely not going to be easy. Talking about my story and sharing so openly about my struggles with food, about this thing that I kept secret for so long, takes courage. And I watch myself sometimes wanting to put across this positive image and wanting people to like me or to approve of me. But then I watch where sometimes when I do that, it's like, oh, that doesn't really feel like myself. It takes courage to be yourself, to show up with all of yourself. And when you put yourself and your message out into the world, no matter what your message is, it takes courage. Number 4 is curiosity. My journey has been steeped in shame and judgment. Shame and judgment are one of the biggest things that kept me in the cycle of binging and eating in secret and eating out of control for so long. Shame and judgment, there is a reason that shame and judgment is the number one reason why people binge, and it's the number one reason why people stay in the cycle. But curiosity is the biggest thing that will help anyone shift out of judgment, whether it's self-judgment or judgment of someone or something else. Curiosity has become a value of mine. Now, growing up, one of my values, I really think that one of my values was being right. I loved to be right. We would joke about it in my family. I always loved to be right. It literally was a value. And of course, this perpetuated the black and white thinking. I thought there was a right way and a wrong way to do just about anything. And I would be happy to tell you if you were not doing it the right way. But here's where I have made such a big shift. It's shifting into curiosity, shifting out of the black and white thinking. And now curiosity has become one of my superpowers, especially when it comes to my coaching. My clients often tell me that I ask great questions, questions that leave them thinking for days, questions that they have never considered and never asked themselves before. This is the power of coaching. You can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. I believe it was Einstein who first said this, but it's so true. When we have a mind, the mind that creates the problem is very unlikely to be the same mind that actually solves this problem. And this is where I come in. So I bring my mind into the equation, a mind that can see your struggle in an entirely different way. It is often so clear to me what is happening when I'm talking to somebody else about their struggles. And I'm able to articulate it, to show them, help them make sense of it in a way that feels enlightening and impactful rather than shameful or judgmental. I have also brought my curiosity into the podcast, getting curious about what people want to hear, which episodes seem to be more appealing to listeners and why, what length of podcast feels resonant for me. And as a note, if you have suggestions of topics that you would love to hear about on the podcast, I would love to hear from you. So you can email me at hello@janepilger.com and send me your ideas, your suggestions. I don't promise that I'm going to say yes and automatically talk about anything that you hear, but I love to hear your ideas, your thoughts. They often give me insights and curiosities to what I might talk about in the future. So I would love to hear from you on that. And the last C, it's celebration. I emphasize this so much with my clients, the importance of celebration. When we celebrate our progress and when we notice what is happening that is getting us closer to our goals, what we're doing is reinforcing to our brains that this is something we want to continue. We give our brains the message, this is good, so the brain will want to repeat it. What you focus on expands. So if you intentionally focus on what's working and what you want to create more of, you will find evidence for it. Now, of course, the opposite is true as well. If you find yourself in a cycle that you'd rather not be in, ask yourself what you are focusing on. It's likely you are focusing more on what you don't want to create rather than what you want to create more of. So what else am I celebrating? This is my 56th episode, 47,000 downloads in 31 countries, 62 ratings as of now on Apple Podcasts with an average of 5 stars. And I spent some time reading the reviews preparing for this episode. I don't spend a lot of time looking at my ratings and reviews. But I did go back for this episode specifically, and I was reading through some of them, and I was so moved. I don't love it when people spend a lot of time on their podcast, like reading other people's reviews. This is not something that I love, but I do want to share 3 reviews with you. And I decided, you know what? If I'm doing a podcast and review, and in 1 year I share with you 3 reviews, that seems pretty reasonable. Don't worry, I will not be doing this on a regular basis because that doesn't really resonate with me. But I do want to share these reviews with you. So here's the first one. Jane takes an approach to binging that I've never encountered before, and I've seen them all. She blends in mindfulness and self-compassion to get to the root of eating issues without focusing on weight. It's body positive and anti-diet for sure, but she also gives practical advice for creating routines and structure that work for you. She has a personal history with this, so she really understands the struggle. If you are struggling with binging, binge eating disorder, or any relationship with food that troubles you, this is the podcast for you. I read that and I was like, wow, that is really such a great description of me and of my approach. And that somebody else is able to see that is so powerful. I can celebrate that. Here's another review. Jane has helped me be open to putting aside shame and judgment and being open to the idea of being curious to what's going on with me. Her calming demeanor takes my nervous system back down to a good place. I recommend her to anyone. Now, I love this because clearly what I am trying to share with you is getting across. It's like, this is what I just talked about too, the shame and the judgment, putting it aside, opening up to curiosity, working on our nervous systems, all of this. It's so powerful. I love to see that, yes, what I am saying and the message that I have been delivering for the last year is getting across. It's so powerful to me. This is something I want to celebrate. And the last review I will share with you is this: love all you are teaching and love that you are helping me learn how to trust myself and find peace with food. And I love that what you are teaching is helping me to see how it all makes sense. I read this review and I'm like, yes, this is what I want. I want people to see how it makes sense. I want people to learn how to trust themselves and to find peace with food. And I want you to know this is available to you no matter what, no matter how long you have been struggling, no matter what you have tried, it is available to you. So please do not give up in your own journey. And I also want to ask you that if you enjoy this podcast, or if it has been impactful to you on your own journey with food, it would be such a gift to me if you would give it a rating and a review. Now, I personally do love to read the reviews on occasion. Again, I'm not spending all my time in there, but when I go in, I do love to read them. And I do love to understand the tangible impact that the podcast is having. It's a much more personal touch for me, and it's an indicator. It's a great indicator to me of the messaging compared to just looking at the number of downloads. But the other reason that for me that ratings and reviews are so important is that they're a factor in the podcast players suggesting this podcast to other people. I would love for more people to find this show, not for me, but for them. I want everyone who struggles with feeling out of control around food to know that they aren't broken, that there is a perfectly good reason why they do what they do with food, and that help is possible. Healing is possible. Peace and trust with food is possible. I know that the work that I do with my clients is life-changing. And I know that incredible transformation and change is possible just by listening to this free resource. So it would be such a gift to me if you would rate and review this show and share it with anyone who you think might benefit. I know it's not always easy to share a podcast about food with someone who hasn't openly talked about their own food stuff. There is so much shame on the topic. There are a lot of people out there who have never talked about it. And this is exactly why the rating and the reviewing is so helpful. Many people aren't ready to talk to others yet, but they are absolutely searching on their own. They're looking for help and for answers. There is some really bad advice out there. There are a lot of podcasts that will keep someone in the cycle of binging and restricting while thinking that they are doing something useful. But the reality is that the advice that they are clinging to is keeping them trapped. So how will they know? How will anyone know? You will know by your results. Are you discovering more peace and ease with food? Or do you feel like you are on the same roller coaster going up and down and up and down again? This is how you'll know. I feel like this podcast is just getting started. I am committed to releasing new episodes every Wednesday. I am committed to staying courageous and sharing my story. I am committed to being curious about you, the listeners, want to hear, and how I can provide great value through this amazing resource that can be accessed for free all over the world. I am committed to celebrating my own success, the success of my clients, and the success of people who are impacted through this podcast and other free resources. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing episodes when they resonate with you. Thank you for taking the time to rate and review the show. Thank you for giving me your feedback and suggestions on what you would like to hear and what is most powerful and impactful for you. Thank you to all of my clients, current and past. to my one-on-one clients who I get to know on such a deep and personal level, to my group clients who lift each other up in ways that are beyond description, to my blueprint clients who are dedicated to diving in on their own while still receiving my support, and to all of those who have attended my workshops to have the experience of what it's like to work with me. The work that I get to do in this world is so powerful, and I don't take it for granted. All right, I want to wrap this up by summarizing the 5 C's. These are the key components that I tell my clients are a part of their success. And I can see that these 5 C's have been a key in my first year of podcasting as well. Commitment, consistency, courage, curiosity, and celebration. So for you, if you have anything that you are working towards in your own personal journey, with food or otherwise, how can you apply these 5 C's to yourself? Which of these C's might you want to revisit as you navigate the path towards your goals? I'm going to give you the 5 C's again: commitment, consistency, courage, curiosity, and celebration. Apply them to yourself, to anything that you are working on. They are powerful. All right, that's what I have for you today. I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Binge Breakthrough. You can find the show notes and any resources mentioned at bingebreakthrough.com. If you like this episode, subscribe to have future episodes delivered to you each Wednesday. And remember, your 5-star rating and review will help others discover these life-changing concepts. See you next week.